Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nastaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tama Shloke Bhagavati Naishiki. Hare Krishna. So I'm very, very grateful to all of you for this opportunity to be here in the holy town of Dwarka. And to be under the shelter of Dwarkadish, Lord Jagannath Baladev Subramani, Gaurnitai, Shri, and all the assembled Vaishnavas. I beg your blessings so that we may have some fruitful discussion today. And if I do my part, I will only repeat what I plagiarized from others. And if I don't, you can beat me with a stick, please. I have full permission. So we'll be reading today, I'm told, from 3rd Canto, chapter number 27, text number 26. The title of the chapter is Understanding Material Nature. Evam vidita tattvasya prakritir mai manasam yanjato napakuruta atmaramasya kadichit. Evam vidita tattvasya prakritir mai manasam yanjato napakuruta atmaramasya kadichit. Evam vidita tattvasya prakritir mai manasam yanjato napakuruta atmaramasya kadichit.
Evam vidita tattvasya prakritir vai manasam yanjato napakuruta atmaramasya kadichit.
Evam vidita tattvasya prakritir vai manasam yanjato napakuruta atmaramasya kadichit.
Evam vidita tattvasya
Evam vidita tattvasya
mai manasam
prakritir vai manasam yanjato napakuruta
atmaramasya kadichit.
atmaramasya kadichit.
Evam vidita tattvasya
Evam vidita tattvasya
prakritir vai manasam
prakritir vai manasam
yanjato napakuruta
yanjato napakuruta
atmaramasya kadichit.
atmaramasya kadichit. Vaishnavis? Evam, thus, viditi tattvasya,
Vidita tattvasya,
to one who knows the absolute truth,
to one who knows the absolute truth,
prakriti,
prakriti,
material nature, mai, on me, manasam, the mind, yanjata, fixing, na, not, apakurute, can do harm, atma aramasya, to one who rejoices in the self,
one who rejoices in the self,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
at any time. Translation in purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the Absolute, and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Kapila says that Maya Manasam, a devotee whose mind is always fixed upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Atmarama, or Viditi Tattva. Atmarama means one who rejoices in the self, or one who enjoys in the spiritual atmosphere. Atma in the material sense means the body or the mind, but when referring to one whose mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Atmarama means one who is fixed in spiritual activities in relationship with the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead, and the individual soul is a living entity. When they engage in reciprocation of service and benediction, the living entity is said to be in the Atmarama position. This Atmarama position can be attained by one who knows the truth as it is. The truth is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the enjoyer, and the living entity are meant for His service and enjoyment. One who knows this truth, and who tries to engage all resources in the service of the Lord, escapes all material reactions and influences the modes of material nature. An example may be cited in this connection. Just as the materialist engages in constructing a big skyscraper, a devotee engages in constructing a big temple for Vishnu. Superficially, the skyscraper constructor and the temple constructor are on the same level, for both are collecting wood, stone, iron, and other building materials. But the person who constructs a skyscraper is a materialist, and the person who constructs a temple of Vishnu is Atmaram. The materialist tries to satisfy himself in relation to his body by constructing a skyscraper. But the devotee tries to satisfy the superself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by constructing the temple. Although both are engaged in social and material activities, the devotee is liberated, and the materialist is conditioned. This is because the devotee who is constructing temples fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of God. But the non-devotee who is constructing a skyscraper has his mind fixed in sense gratification. If while performing any activity, even in the material existence, one's mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the Personality of Godhead, one will not be entangled or conditioned. The worker in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is always independent of the influence of the material nature. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swakadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamanam Shri Guru Vaishnavansha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitantam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsra Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Repeat the verse, so you can repeat the verse. The influence of material nature
The influence of material nature
cannot harm an enlightened soul,
cannot harm an enlightened soul,
even though he engages in
even though he engages in
material activities,
material activities.
because he knows the truth
Because he knows the
of
truth,
the Absolute,
the absolute,
and his mind is fixed
and his mind is fixed
on the Supreme Personality of God.
on the Supreme Personality of God.
So this chapter again is entitled Understanding Material Nature. And the context here is Mother Devavati has asked the question, does the material nature ever give release? Does it relinquish its grip on the soul? And Lord Kapila has answered that yes, by fixed and determined devotional service, one can become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. So Krishna has given us some assurance that even in this material world, one can be liberated. Often we think of liberation as some geographic destination, going from this place to that. But actually the liberation means to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. It is freeing our consciousness from the influence of the modes. And as Rupa Goswami explains, that one can be jivan mukta. One can be liberated even in this material body, even within this material world. So this liberation that we speak of, it is more about consciousness. It's not about moving our destination from here to there. And it is becoming free from the modes. So, bhakti, we can compare it to like a giant umbrella. When it is raining outside, there is nothing you can do to stop the rain. But if I go out and carry an umbrella, I can stop the rain from making me wet. I can stop the effect of rain upon me with the carrying of this umbrella. So bhakti is like that. We cannot stop the forces of material nature, the things that are going to happen from time to time. But by taking to the process of devotional service, I can insulate myself from the effects of the material nature on me. So there's like this giant umbrella, devotional service, that we carry with us. And so today I thought we could discuss 3 things, with your permission. So how to be protected from the material nature, Krishna gives, or Lord Kapila is giving 2 main ingredients in this verse. He says one must know the truth of the Absolute. So let's discuss a little bit about knowing the truth. And then 2, that the mind must be fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we'll talk about how to fix the mind in Krishna. Anybody finds it easy to control the mind? It is quite erratic, at least speaking for myself only. And then we'll talk about building skyscrapers. Since all of you are building a skyscraper here, a very wonderful temple, very poetic that I'm speaking on this verse, having just toured your amazing temple a couple days ago, with Prabhuji's guidance. So we'll talk about building temples versus building skyscrapers, and how to work within the material world, fully protected from the influence of material nature. So we can, hopefully, as time permits, we'll talk about these 3 things. So what is the truth? What is the absolute truth? In America we say there's only 2 certainties, death and taxes. But we're going to come to the transcendental truth. What is the absolute truth? So in order to hear this, we have to brace ourselves because our ego is going to be shattered. And Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport a very powerful statement, but it's going to hurt, at least for me, full of ego. We were created exclusively for the purpose to be enjoyed by Krishna. We were created exclusively to be enjoyed by Krishna. That's it. That is our purpose. And we know that if we try to use something for a purpose other than for what it was created, we'll not find success. Suppose I have a bicycle. A bicycle was created for the purpose of getting me from point A to point B more quickly than my 2 legs can get me. That's the purpose of a bicycle. That's why it was created. Now, if I try to use this bicycle for the purpose of trying to sleep, will I find any success?
No.
Sure, I might get a moment, but that's not what it was made for. So as foolish as it is to suggest or to attempt to try to use the bicycle for as a place to sleep, this is like the conditioned soul, the soul trying to find happiness in the material world. It was not made for that purpose. We were made simply to be enjoyed by Krishna. And so if we try to experience our life in any other way, separate from this singular purpose, we'll always be left frustrated, disappointed, and full of anxiety. So this is the absolute truth. This is the truth. That this is my only purpose. Now, knowing the truth is, we have to understand, what does it mean to know the truth? So you can come to one class in ISKCON, and you'll know you're not this body, we're a spirit soul. Listen to any Prabhupada lecture. He tells us this over and over and over again. Why is he repeating himself? Because it takes hard amounts of effort in order for us to realize this knowledge. This knowledge, it only has value if it leads to action. Right? Any knowledge we get, until it then is applied, it has no value. If I am sick and a doctor tells me, "Dear sir, this is your sickness, this is your diagnosis, and this is the medicine that will cure your sickness, and this is how it will work," all that knowledge is very helpful. But if I don't take the medicine, what is the value of that knowledge? Zero. So this knowledge that I was made to be enjoyed by Krishna, it becomes Vijnana, realized knowledge, when I begin to act in that way. And that is, of course, the part that is difficult. We've seen great, big people speaking big philosophy. In Srimad Bhagavatam we see, Hiranyakashipu. He is speaking big philosophy to pacify his family members at the death of his brother. But was he practicing that philosophy? So our opportunity is to take this knowledge we know, I was made for this purpose, and begin to translate it into action. But Srila Prabhupada gives us a little bit of an out. He says, fake it until you make it. So if we're not yet purified enough to fully accept that, just keep trying. Just keep trying. And in time, we'll come to realize that this is actually the real path to finding happiness. So, the fixing the mind on Krishna, this becomes very, very difficult. And we see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells us, "Mam churodi pacharena bhakti yogena sevata sadhunam samititeta amma bhevata kalpate." He says, if you want to transcend the modes, what do we have to do? Engage in devotional service. But he says, "Avyapacharena." He says, unfailingly, unflinchingly. Meaning we must be continuously engaged in devotional service. Then and only then can we transcend the modes of material nature. That is the tricky part. Right? And we see in Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami tells us that the essence of all advice, 24/7 engaged in chanting and remembering Krishna. So this is the position we must get to. It must be unflinching. And we have to recognize that, Maya, the material nature, it is dangerous. If we give the smallest of openings, it will grab it, and we are doomed. Somehow, some way to understand how the smallest of opening can ruin where we are. Suppose I have a very important document, and I put it into a waterproof pouch, fully waterproof from tip. And I want to hide it really well, so I submerge it in some water somewhere. That document is protected because it's in a waterproof pouch. But now, if in this pouch there's the tiniest of hole, just a pin-sized hole, What is the result of that document? This is like Maya. Just finds the tiniest of hole in our consciousness, the tiniest of hole in our day-to-day practice. And with it, a whole devotional service can be ruined. Jai Shri Dwarka
Jai. Jai.
Borijan Prabhu gives another really wonderful example when he's explaining, this idea. Sometimes we ask, what's the harm, watching one cricket match? Oh, what's the harm, one TV show? What's the harm? So he gives this really nice example. He says, imagine your mind is like a cup. And if you fill it with water, and you fill the cup completely with water, all the way up to the top, to the point where even one more drop of water will not fit. And then on that top, if you just drop one drop of ink onto the top, it will slide off. It will not enter the cup, because the cup is completely full. But if I remove just one drop from that cup, and now I squeeze a little bit of ink, what happens? The whole cup becomes colored by this ink. This is the opening that Maya is looking for. And that's why Krishna is telling us that one must be fixed 24/7. This is the only means to be fully protected from the influence of the material nature. So we must work to come to this point. And this is the opportunity. And we've seen many examples of, one practicing devotional service getting so close and then losing it. There was one Srila Prabhupada disciple that was telling this story, and it struck me. I can't remember the context of where this took place, but this was in the very early days of the movement. And Srila Prabhupada was giving initiation. And we know that, in the early days, Srila Prabhupada was giving initiation. It's not like today's, where there's, disciples courses and all kinds of, things. He was working with, trying to get people up to a certain standard as best he could, as quickly as he could, to fight this war of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so there were 4 or 5 devotees seated, and the yajna was about to start. And one boy in particular was really committed to surrendering to Srila Prabhupada and practicing spiritual life. But he had a girlfriend, and she was not so favorable. And so they're seated at the yajna, and Prabhupada is about to start. He's on the vyasasana, ready to go, and she knocks on the window, and she points to this guy. And so he says, Prabhupada, excuse me, I'll be back in a minute. And he gets up from his yajna. See how much taller Srila Prabhupada had. He tolerated unbelievable scenarios. And so this boy goes outside, and he speaks with this girl. And he was never seen again. He was that close to getting connected to the Acharya of Srila Prabhupada, this eternal lifeline to go back home to Godhead. And just a moment's conversation, they never saw him again. So this is the danger of the material nature. And it's why we should have a healthy amount of fear. I emphasize healthy. One Srila Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada, what's the difference between you and us? And his devotee was expecting some very elaborate, shastric answer explaining Uttamadhikari, Kanishtadhikari, something in this. And Srila Prabhupada simply said, you can fall down, but I cannot. So a little bit later in the day, Srila Prabhupada came to the temple, and he was taking strong darshan of the deities. And it seemed that he was in a very prayerful mood and having some conversation with the deities. And so this disciple who had asked that question earlier is noting this. Wow, Srila Prabhupada's in deep meditation. So after they returned to his room, he went to Srila Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, can I ask you a question? He says, I wanted to know, you seem to be in conversation with the deities, or a deep prayer. What were you praying for? What were you speaking about? And he said, I was praying that please don't let me fall down. And the disciple said, wait a minute. You said that the difference between us and you is you cannot fall down. But we can. And he says, now you know why. Even Srila Prabhupada himself would pray to the deities, don't let me become overcome by material nature. If he has to pray like that, which he doesn't of course, but he was an instruction to all of us, we should maintain a healthy amount of fear, if not fear, respect for the dangers of material nature. So this idea of becoming 24/7, fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, at times can become very daunting and thinking, it's impossible. I can't even think about Krishna chanting my rounds 2 hours a day. How am I ever going to be able to think of Krishna the other 22 hours? Forget about 16 rounds, even one round, if I could think of Krishna uninterrupted, I'd be considered a success. So what to do? What is my hope? Well, our hope is that we should remember that our natural inclination, our original state, is to be fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. 24/7, that is our actual natural state. It is our intrinsic ability. That's what we are created for. But we have lost it. See, if somebody says, hey, go out and become a world-class cricketer, I can say, well, that's not in my nature. That's impossible. I don't have the physical attributes to be able to do that. But our opportunity or ability to remain 24/7 absorbed in Krishna, that is actually was our original position. And we have simply lost it. It's like Srila Prabhupada was once asked, Srila Prabhupada, are you here to convert the world? He said, no. I am here to simply help you remember what you have forgotten. So this opportunity to meditate on Krishna 24/7, while it may seem very daunting and maybe in some ways impossible, remember, we once had it. That is actually our original state. And through the practice of good sadhana, we're simply reawakening this opportunity, reawakening this ability. So there's nothing new that we have to gain. So thinking about Krishna, how to think about Krishna. So we know, I heard this recently, I wanted to share it with you because I thought it fit with this topic. There are 3 different ways in which we can increase our meditation on Krishna. I'll start with the hardest, which is to develop pure love for Krishna. That is our goal. It's difficult. But we know, if we have love for Krishna, then thinking about him happens naturally. Just like a mother. Does a mother have to work to think about her child? No, because she has deep love. She's constantly meditating on her child, even when separated from her child. Oh, what my child must be doing in school. I wonder if he was able to eat okay. Did he get this? All these things. What shall I cook for him? This is the constant meditation because there is love. One doesn't have to put forth any effort to think. That is the natural position. So that is one way in which we can constantly think of Krishna. And that is our goal, and that is through the practice of our sadhana, someday we will awaken this spontaneous mood of loving and thinking of Krishna. A second way is through fear. If there is a snake in the garden, will we think about anything else but that snake? We'll be in full fear. Oh, where is it? What's it doing? Is it nearby? We're constantly thinking. Right? Just ask Kamsa. He was doing Krishna Smaranam all the time. But unfortunately, that is not bhakti, because it is not anukulina, it's not favorable. So we don't want to pursue that. So love, that's where we want to get to, but maybe out of reach today. Fear, not the right way to think about the Lord. So the third way. When we have a need, our mind naturally gravitates towards it. Suppose I have a need, I am thirsty, I want some water. And I have a strong need for this water. Somebody is bringing me some foodstuffs. What will be my meditation? Water. Some nice friend has come and he is speaking with me. I haven't seen him in some long time. I'm engaging in conversation. I'm speaking to him, but where is my mind? Water. Right? So when we have a strong need for something, actually the mind naturally gravitates towards it. So if we can try to inculcate in our consciousness how much we are fully dependent on Krishna, how much we actually need Him. Actually, we can do nothing without Krishna's mercy. We have full need. So by increasing this realization that every step I take in this world, it is by the mercy of the Lord. How much I need Krishna? Every breath I take, how is that oxygen getting into the bloodstream and fueling all the cells within my body to perform very action? Are any of us doing that? Are we doing it? Who is doing it? It's Krishna, through the arrangement of material nature. So from the smallest of activities, we can see that we are fully in need of Krishna. And by meditating on this, it can help us to increase our consciousness of thinking of the Supreme Lord while we are developing the purification of heart to awaken this pure love. That is where we'll get to. But in the interim step, this is just one way that we can try to increase our meditation by increasing our awareness of how we are fully dependent on the Supreme Lord. So now let us talk about the third agenda item today. What is real renunciation? How to build skyscrapers and remain untouched by the material nature. So we see in Nectar of Devotion this verse, Anashaktasya vicharam yatharam upayamjate nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagya uchite. Yukta vairagya. What is real renunciation? Real renunciation means to renounce the desire for sense enjoyment. It is not to renounce the material world. Real renunciation means to use whatever facilities there are in the material world for the pleasure of Krishna, not for the pleasure of the self. Actually, every day we wake up, we have only two choices. Either I'm going to serve my senses, or I'm going to serve Krishna's senses. Those are the only two choices I have. And the outcome of each is clear. If I choose to serve my senses, the result will be full suffering and misery. And if I choose to serve Krishna's senses, eternal bliss and happiness. But this is the actual only two options we have. And so Krishna is telling us that we must renounce the desire to try to enjoy our senses independent of Krishna. Why? Because we weren't made for that purpose. Our purpose was to be enjoyed by Krishna. And so the devotee knows how to very intelligently utilize all the resources of the world in the service of Krishna. This is real renunciation. And the beauty of working for Krishna and not for ourselves, there are many, many advantages to it. It is the only means to find happiness, but there are also many, many advantages to working for Krishna and not for ourselves. The first is, whether success or failure, that's not our problem. That's Krishna's situation. What is our concern? Did I put in my best effort? The result is Krishna's. When I'm working for the Lord, whether something happens and manifests or not, that is Krishna's result. And so I can detach from this anxiety of the outcome and simply focus on, did I put forth my effort? We go out in book distribution. My concern should not be how many books went. More, how many hours I spent trying my sincerest, trying my best, and not letting the result sap or deteriorate our energy. Because that is Krishna's situation. Actually, what is failure? There is no such thing as failure. When we perceive failure, it is simply Our plan not aligning with Krishna's plan. Because Krishna's plan reigns supreme and it is perfect. So when we perceive some failure, it is simply my plan is not aligned with Krishna's plan. The devotee realizes that, okay, if what I wanted didn't manifest, that's good. Why? Because Krishna has a better plan for me. He has a better plan for me. And that is why a devotee can remain determined, utsahan, fully enthusiastic, whether the results are happening or not. We have to look no further than just read Lilamrita. Prabhupada, how much apparent failure he encountered, step after step, particularly before he even came to the US. But he remained fully enthusiastic, because that was Krishna's plan. Krishna had the best plan. And how did Krishna's plan work out in the end? We are all the beneficiary of it. We are all the beneficiary. Imagine if Srila Prabhupada was attached to the result and said, this isn't working, let me try something else. Where we would all be? Doomed. Doomed. So this is how the devotee works. They become fully liberated. Just put forth the best effort and let Krishna decide. And the devotee understands that I am fully maintained by Krishna. In the 6 principles of Sharanagati, in the 6 principles of surrender, the 4th principle is that one has full understanding that they are 100% maintained by Krishna. They have no other source of maintenance. Sometimes we think, no, my material endeavor, that is how I'm maintained. I knew this one gentleman. He was a very, very successful businessman. He built an extraordinary import business, importing these very unique products, and he was selling them. And he sold his company for $200 million. I don't know how many rupees that is, but it's a lot. It's a lot. $200 million he sold it. So his material endeavor led to his success, no? And he was set for life. 3 days after he sold the business, he had a major heart attack and died. Sometimes I think, my endeavor is required for my success. My success is required for my maintenance. Our maintenance, our existence here, is fully dependent on the mercy of Krishna. And so the devotee enthusiastically depends on Krishna. Let me ask you a question. Who is it better to depend on? Ourselves, who are fully fallible, or to depend on the infallible, unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna? Where is the better place for us to put our faith in maintenance? Ourselves? Or does Krishna? Krishna gives us assurance after assurance. In the Bhagavad Gita, he tells us, to my exclusive devotee, I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. He said, I'll even carry what you don't have. You don't have to carry it yourself. This much love Krishna has for his pure devotee. So this is the understanding by which the devotee works in the material world. They work and they use all the facilities of the world. But they understand it is ultimately Krishna's doing. Krishna's manufacturing. His process. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, equally great. Because that is Krishna's plan unfolding. So this is real renunciation and the opportunity we have. So this verse, again, just to summarize, is telling us how to become insulated, protected from the influence of the material nature. We must first know, don't ride a bike and try to sleep on it. We were not made to enjoy this material world. We were made to be enjoyed by Krishna. This is the truth that we must bring into our consciousness and translate into our action. If we do that, we'll be protected from the material nation. 2, we must work to bring our mind 24/7 in thought of Krishna, in meditation on Krishna. Don't let even a small pinhole enter into our mind and thought process, because the smallest of opening can destroy everything. So the next time we ask ourselves, oh, what's the harm with this activity? Remember, this is the harm. And real renunciation is not to stop action, not to renounce the material world. It is to simply renounce the material world for one's own sense enjoyment, and to work exclusively for the pleasure of Krishna, using whatever ability we have and whatever resources we have to build an extraordinary, illustrious, grand temple for Rukmini Dwarka. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki. We have some time for some comments, corrections, questions, discussion. This is unfair. I'm hoping you're going to correct some.
Thank you so much for it. You so beautifully elaborated different aspects of the verse as well as purport. Thank you very much for the wonderful, amazing class. Thank you so much. And only I hear you mention that those who become devotees in from the place of relation. But when we see our devotee communities, we do get a pleasure of relation, especially in lower modes. Even in meetings with each other, talking to each other, we are very hurtable. We are very sensitive. It's not sensitive towards others, we are sensitive towards our own selves. Towards others, we are hyper-insensitive. So we see that we are in such consumer relation. So how to really transcend it and come to the level of this verse which is spoken here?
Of course, Prabhuji is asking a question. He preaches that much better than I can ever attempt to or even pretend to. But for my own purification, he's asking me. If you go to the tennis court and you start hitting tennis balls, you want the ball to go this way. But the first time you hit the ball, where does the ball go? This way, up, behind you sometimes, over the fence, everywhere. So what do? You keep practicing. Keep practicing. Keep practicing. But we don't just practice blindly. If we really want to get good, what do? We get a coach. We get somebody who can teach us. And we practice and we analyze and we observe. Okay, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And we be introspective. We take the guidance and we practice, and that will accelerate our success in the tennis court. So how to accelerate our success in bhakti? Get a coach. That we should surrender to a bona fide guru who can teach us. Tattva darshana. They have seen the truth. Because they have seen this, they can explain it to us. But we must do our part. Pariprashana, we must inquire and sevaya, render service. And if we do, then the Guru, by our own ability, we have no hope. Zero. But by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, it can happen. Prabhupada used to say, impossible is a word in the Fool's Dictionary. So don't think impossible. On our own side, we should be very introspective to think, where are these modes creeping into our bhakti? I was giving a couple of days ago when I gave this example. When we experience ups and downs in devotional service, that is an indication of false ego in our bhakti. Why? Because I want something that didn't happen and thus it's down. Otherwise, what is down? What is down? Nothing. So when we experience this, we should realize, okay, I am some self-motive in my devotional service. I can work to understand. My goal is simply to please Krishna. I'm not here to please myself. Yes, my happiness will come through that means. But when we experience that, that is an indication that we have some, personal motive. I gave this other example, I think yesterday or the day before, that, we should be eager to take correction, to get feedback. Just like we want a coach to correct our swing if it is off. We should be eager to take correction in our practice of devotional service. Sometimes though, when we get that correction, there's a sting, a little bit of pain. What is that pain? That is pride in our heart. So we should diagnose it. It's okay. Yes, you know what? I didn't like that feedback, but I'm going to process it and apply it. But we should know, okay, that pain, there's a little bit of pride in the heart. And so by being conscious and honest with ourselves, we're not perfect in the practice of bhakti. But let's get a little bit better tomorrow than we are today. And a little bit better the day after than tomorrow. And by making progressive steps, recognizing, yes, I'm on the sadhaka platform. But if I stick to the process, stick to the way, I will achieve perfection. But if I think I've already achieved perfection, there will be no hope for us to achieve. So we should be honest with ourselves, find those areas where those modes have crept in and work to eliminate them, just as we would work to eliminate the errant shots in the telescope. Thank you. Anything you can add, Prabhuji, to that, please?
Perfect. Very satisfying.
Any other comments? Shyam Krishna Prabhu, you would like to offer anything, please?
No, you said that, in hole, but we have big hole.
Those are the holes of the good devotee association.
Jiva.
Question. Dharmas.
You said there are 3 ways to remember Krishna. You said first one is to develop love for Krishna, other is to care, and the third one is realizing the need for Krishna. So when I came to the point realizing the need for Krishna, so I think of there are 2 ways probably. One is to know, have the knowledge of the absolute truth about Krishna, so that you feel that that is where should I go to. And the other way is executing the devotional services, and the result of the devotional services to develop the love for Krishna. Then you feel that connection, unless you apply that knowledge. So I was thinking these first and third points are very related. You gave the example of thirsty. Thirsty comes what is very natural. You don't have to make extra efforts to have that. It automatically comes in. And that point that you have to have that internal love for Krishna, then only you realize that meaning. So it is fully dependent on the love. That is third and first are very interrelated.
Interconnected. Yes, in many ways they are. If you see how Krishna, in speaking the Bhagavad Gita, as he enters the second section of Bhagavad Gita, which is the topic of Ananya Bhakti, pure devotional service. How does he begin that section? He speaks about how to see that we are fully dependent on, right? He speaks about the Apara and Para Shakti in the beginning of chapter 7, illustrating that everything that we are interacting with Krishna. Either his inferior energy or his superior energy. Right? So before he comes to the Rajaguya, the most confidential topics, he explains to us, hey, I am everywhere. You are always connected to me. Any perception of separation from Krishna is simply Maya's illusory energy. But in reality, we are never separated from Krishna. Understanding that can help us increase this understanding of I need Krishna in all aspects of my life. I have no independent existence. And of course that will bring one then to the platform of loving that person who's constantly there supporting us. And it's like a child in the home. A child in the home at some point in its growth realizes, it is my mother and father who are providing me all my needs. And that love begins to grow and appreciation comes to grow. So yes, I like how they are interconnected. But again, until that love develops, that need is a little bit more tangible for us to begin to appreciate while we are trying to develop that love. Or awaken that love, I should say. Not develop. Yes.
I have another question one is that you are trying very hard in your devotion services to have that taste for love for Krishna. But there is my perspective, there is a long gap in between. And there is sometimes you struggle very hard and feel unmotivated. So, in patient attention is you should have the heavy, you should have patience. So, how do we have that patience always? Although you are trying very hard.
Rupa Goswami gives us the perfect formula. Utsaha nishya dharya tatat karma pravartana sangratyaga sato vritihi. What happens? Prashidyati. Assured success. Not maybe success. And complete success. Not mostly success. He says you're assured complete success by these 6 factors. So we have to be enthusiastic. We have to endeavor with intelligence. We don't accomplish anything without our endeavor. But we should be nischay, confident. And we should be confident in 2 things. One, that it is through Krishna consciousness that is the only means for me to find success in life. There is no other means. I should have full confidence in that. And 2, Krishna's mercy will come. I can't do it on my own, but Krishna's mercy will come. So we should be confident in these 2 things. So this confidence, it fuels enthusiasm. It makes us more enthusiastic. Right? The more confident I am that if I attend class, I'll get gulab jamuns after class, this hall would be full. Right? So the more confident I am. Okay? So the more confident I am in these 2 things, the more enthusiastic I'll be. Now, patience. If I have confidence, I'm willing to wait for that great result. So that patience, it sustains enthusiasm. Confidence fuels it. Patience sustains it. Because I know, hey, I'm on the right path. It's just going to take some time. Now we look at our time and say, hey, I've had my hand in this bead bag for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, read a few books, nothing happened. We have been swimming in this material world for millions and millions of lifetimes. It will take a little bit of time to undo all the anarthas and all the contamination that we acquired. But at the same time, Rupa Goswami gives us the 2-part formula. If we want to, add rocket fuel to our progress in spiritual life, we have to have intense greed for it. We should be begging. As a small child begs for a piece of candy, we should be begging to Krishna, please awaken my Krishna prema. And 2, we need utmost humility. Utmost humility to recognize that it is only by the mercy of Guru and Krishna can happen. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells us, how do you kirtaniya sadahari? We can only chant constantly if we are humble. tolerant, amani namani, offering respects and expecting them in return. So if we have this intense greed for it and this humility, we'll make rapid progress. But in the meantime, remain patient and confident and put forth your effort. It's guaranteed to work. It will work. Any other questions? We have time for one more?
Yeah.
We are lacking and should improve. My question is that this is a bit attached to that question, but it's more of a personal question. Like you told that if one इसको बताया जाए, like someone tell about your what is being done for him, then sometimes someone changes. But Lord भगवान तो बोलते नहीं अगर Guru tells, like someone not following certain things. So is it in family one can speak to your child directly to show the importance of what is being done? Sometimes children are not following like certain things. So sometimes we shake them. We say, ये हो रहा है, ये क्या हो रहा है, और ये is it okay or not?
I'm not sure I followed the question. Can you rephrase it for me?
Like children, they have children when I think that's stuff. So sometimes they are not following certain things. We sometimes to put them on the right path. We put forcibly that we are doing so much for you.
Yeah.
This, otherwise you will be in the street. So is it related to what one? Even sometimes like students and teachers, sometimes teachers does so many put to you. Is it the right way?
There's no universal right way or wrong way. The experienced teacher knows how to motivate each individual, right? Some people need love, some people need a slap, some people need a push, some people need a pull. You know, I need a slap, I could tell you. But Srila Prabhupada was brilliant at this. To some he was very tolerant. He would let things go. And to somebody else, the smallest of deviation, he would hammer. Just thunderbolt. And like our heart is thinking, Krishna, how we can tolerate. But the Guru knows. That they know what we can take. So as a management, it's also you have that same challenge, right? How to inspire and instruct. Krishna. This is a volunteer organization, but you need strict following. It's a difficult position. I don't envy all of you who are leading these companies. It's difficult. I lead businesses in the material world. That's easy. It's this way, or there's another job for you somewhere else. It's easy, but in spiritual life, it's very, very difficult. But the good leader, they know because see, leadership requires great empathy. Meaning, I should understand the position of the person. Why are they behaving this way? Don't cast our own ideas on that person. Understand what is their circumstance. And if I understand their circumstance, then actually I can provide the solution to bring out the desired outcome, which is their success. That's why in the corporate America now, they teach so much about the need to be empathetic. If you look at the business books in the 50s and 60s and 70s, empathy, that's for the soft, weak people. We lead by the iron fist, military style. Now, no, you cannot do that. So, but if you look at our acharyas, they were great at empathy. They really understood the heart of the individual and applied the solution appropriately. So that's our approach. Anything else? Yes, please.
What is the meaning of Atma? Can you speak and out of that Atma in our life?
Atmaram in essence means that I am self-satisfied. I'm satisfied with the self. My happiness comes from understanding my relationship with Krishna. My happiness is not dependent on any other material circumstance. So whether the stock market is up or the stock market is down, I'm happy in my relationship with Krishna. whether it is raining or cold, whether somebody is glorifying me or somebody is criticizing me. I am fully self-satisfied. It's a very powerful position to be in because we become in control. Nothing else can impact my contentment and happiness. Because I know I was made by my beloved Lord and that relationship is eternal. Nothing can take that away. That is, again, some understanding of what this Atmarama means. That it is self-satisfied. You see, any material activity we do, we are dependent on so many external factors for it to be successful. You know, I go to some beach vacation, and what happens when it rains? I'm unhappy. The kids get sick, I'm unhappy. The hotel is booked. My attempt is dependent on so many things out of my control. Atmarama means my happiness is from within. It is based on my relationship with Krishna, which is unbreakable. That's why Prahlad Maharaj, was he Atmarama?
Yes.
In the circumstance of unimaginable difficulties. Peace, no fear. Peace.
So is there a difference in Brahmabhut, Prasanatma and Atmarama?
Brahmabhut.
and Atmarama is different. They are same.
It's similar. Brahmabhut is becoming self-realized, realizing the self. And then prasanatma, one becomes joyful when one reveals the self. Right? Atmarama means that I understand my relationship, and that is the source of my happiness. That my happiness comes from that relationship with Krishna. Yes, they are connected. But in that verse, Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, the point is that when I become self-realized, then I become fully joyful. No more hankering, no more lamenting manifests. And from there, Mad Bhakti Bhavate, the pure devotional service begins. Okay?
Thank you, Harish.
Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.